I'll start things out. We'll just take a moment to cultivate a little bit of mental purity. So for me, you can close your eyes and we just start to settle into this. For me, sometimes when I sit down, I'll think about, is there anything I'm angry about? And if so, is that something I can let go of, just for the next hour and a half or the period of time that I'm going to be meditating? So sometimes I'll just check in on those obvious things. Is there anything I'm angry about? Is there anything I'm carrying that would prevent me from being able to meditate quietly? Is there anyone that I'm angry at? And if so, what's that about? Can I let that go? Is there anything I'm worried about? And if so, is that something I can put down? So it's not a denial type of thing. Really what it is just noticing this is what the mind is carrying right now. And the stuff we carry in the mind can be a hindrance when it comes to meditating and finding peace. So it can be just a very helpful, very simple thing to check in. What have I got? Anything I can put down? I can pick it up again and work with it skillfully in an hour and a half with a refreshed mind, a refreshed heart. So this is the practice of purification. So with that in mind, just think about anything you'd like to let go of, and I'll sound this bell. Purification bell. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. All right, welcome everybody. Well, we will do our meditation together. So if you want to take a minute to get comfortable for the meditation, whether it's laying down or sitting on these cushions or on the benches or any combination of anything is completely acceptable. So it's all about getting rid of conflict in the body so that you can rest comfortably for a period of time. And if after 5 minutes of meditating you find that you're uncomfortable, it's okay to move. Feel free to adjust your posture, your position, just so you can be comfortable. So to begin with, I would just invite everybody to close your eyes. We close our eyes to eliminate visual distractions, the things that might make us think. So we close the eyes. It's helpful to find a degree of symmetry in the body so that both sides of your body, your arms and legs, are doing the same thing, so that there's balance there. You're not using your muscles on one side more than another. This can be helpful. We sit with the back relatively straight, but not rigid in any way. A straight back just kind of helps us, for one thing, stay awake while we meditate, and then for another, to breathe freely. So the straight back, let your breath come and go freely. There's no need to manipulate it in any way. We just let it come and go. And if you can breathe through the nose, that's helpful. As we get further into the practice, we do a little breathing meditation, so breathing through the nose is good. And you can also tilt your head just ever so slightly forward. You kind of tuck your chin a little bit if you're sitting upright, and you find that that might take a little tension off the back of the neck. So that's something you can experiment with. But with all of that being said, I will sound the meditation bell, and I'll start to guide us through the meditation. And this meditation, this is the same meditation that everyone is used to, the same one that we've been doing together, regardless of which class we're in. This is just the basic practice that we do together, so it'll be familiar to you. So just follow the sound of the bell. Follow it as it's fading into silence. And you find that that silence is a very natural invitation to turn your senses inward. You can do that by focusing on the feeling of being present in your own body, the feeling of sitting here or lying here. There are sensations of being present. So you're just focusing awareness on that, naturally drawing the senses inward. And we let go of the habit of the mind, which is to be kind of projected outward most of the time, searching and scanning, being interested and curious in the outside world. So instead, for now, we just turn the senses inward, become aware of that inner sense of being. And in that, we notice a stability, there's a solidity, there's a safety to it. Sometimes it feels a little bit like going home. So we establish that awareness, and with that awareness established, let's bring it up to the top of the head, to the area of the scalp, and just open up your awareness. Focusing on the scalp, open up awareness to any physical sensations that you notice in the scalp. So physical sensations, we're not looking for anything special. Sensations of temperature, feeling warm or cool on your scalp. Sometimes there are sensations of air movement. If there's air moving around in the room, you might notice that. Sometimes there are sensations on the surface of the skin of the scalp. That might be a tickle or an itch or a feeling of pulsation. So really, you're just bringing awareness to the scalp, opening it up, and patiently observing any sensation that comes up. And sometimes sensations are of the nature to arise and pass away. They might come and go, last for a minute, change into something else. So we just watch with a degree of objectivity also. We're not judging, oh, this is a good sensation, or I'm glad I'm feeling this sensation. We're just objective, watching as it comes and goes. No good or bad, no right or wrong, just observing, just watching. And then as we're observing the scalp, if you notice any tension anywhere within the scalp, and oftentimes there is, all you need to do is become aware of the tension and allow it to leave the body. So becoming aware of tension anywhere in the scalp, we release it, we allow it to leave the body, and it leaves the body. And so from the scalp now, we'll move awareness downward into the forehead. See if you can feel the awareness actually flowing downward. There's a warm, sort of soothing flow of the awareness sometimes. Feel as it moves downward from the scalp into the forehead. And then from the forehead downward into the temples. And then from the forehead downward through the eyebrows, it passes into the eyes. And now we're aware of these four areas. Just this objective awareness, forehead, temples, eyebrows, and eyes. Any sensations, temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. Observing as they arise and pass away. And there's nothing that you need to be feeling or should be feeling here. Nothing you shouldn't be feeling. Just whatever your experience is in this present moment is the right thing. And we're just watching. We're all just watching. If there's tension in any of these areas, once again, we just let it go. Tension in the forehead, the brow is furrowed, we just release. Tension in the temples, we let it go. eyebrows raised, we just release. Tension in the eyes, they're squinted maybe, we let go. So awareness, becoming aware of tension, allows us to release it from the body. And we do that unconditionally, just letting it go, letting it go. And then we can move the awareness again. Feel the flow of awareness from your temples moving downward into your ears. Feel the ears. And now I'll start to guide us through a few body parts. So as I do, just be aware of sensations in each of these parts. So the ears, and then moving forward from the ears into the cheekbones and the face. And then from the eyes, moving downward, passing through the nose, lips, mouth, and chin. So we're holding the whole face with mindful awareness now, observing any sensations, just watching as they come and go. And if there's tension, we meet the tension with release. This is our response to tension, just letting it go. So you can check in with your jaws to see if your teeth are clenched, or maybe your lips are pursed, or there's just tightness in the muscles somewhere. Let that go. In the face, there are so many muscles where there can be just very subtle tension. So it's helpful to release this, setting yourself free. And now from the chin, we'll move the awareness downward. Feel as it's passing downward into your neck, through your throat and the front of your neck. And feel as it moves through the sides of the neck and then backward to the back part of the neck. Again, just observing sensations, whatever is there. Letting go of any tension in the neck. Setting your body free. Finding stability and freedom. And then now from the neck, we'll move awareness downward again. Let it pass down into the shoulders. Let it spread throughout the shoulders. Observing those sensations, temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. And here in the shoulders, depending on how you're sitting or laying, you might notice the sensation of contact between your shoulders and the chair or the floor. Or sometimes you will notice the feeling of contact between your skin and your clothing. So these are just more natural sensations to be observed. If there's tension in the shoulders, release it. If they're shrugged, just let them drop, allowing peacefulness to come. We find this is the natural replacement for tension. We notice tension with mindful awareness, we release it, and in its place, in the emptiness that's left behind, we just find peacefulness. A great calm, a great stability. And now from the shoulders, let your awareness flow downward into your upper arms. You feel it moving through the biceps and rotating inward. Feel it moving through the inside part of the upper arms. Moving from the underarms all the way down to the elbow joint. And we rotate backward to the triceps, the back part of the arm. And we rotate again to the outside part of the upper arm, from the shoulder all the way down to the elbow joint again. Observing sensations in each area and releasing tension. And sometimes, even if there is no apparent tension in an area, it's helpful to just go through the motions of releasing it anyway. And we'll find sometimes that there is a feeling of release, a feeling of additional calm and stability. So even when we don't necessarily notice tension, we can still release it. And then feel your awareness as it moves down through the elbows. Feel it as it passes through the forearms. It just starts to move down. It flows downward from the forearms into the wrists. And once it's in the wrists, you feel it flowing further into the hands. And then the hands, will observe the different parts of the hands, the heels of the hands, the palms, moving around to the tops of the hands, expanding awareness through the thumbs and fingers. Each of these parts of the hands have their own unique sensations. Just observing. Let the hands relax. Sometimes we hold our hands with tightness or our fingers, so just let them rest. And finally we bring awareness down into the fingernails themselves, this very tiny area of the hands. Just focus awareness in the fingernails for a few moments. See if you notice any sensations. And sometimes we'll notice that yes, there is just a little feeling of vibration or energy or pulsation in the fingernails. So this helps us to fine-tune our awareness. It helps us to become aware of ever more subtle levels of sensation. And now from the fingernails, we'll take the awareness, we'll guide it upward to the top of the chest. You can just start by spreading awareness across the collarbones and then observe it flowing downward through the chest. Moving all the way down to the base of the sternum. You're observing sensations and releasing tension. And feel it flowing outward through the rib cage. Observing, releasing. Now we'll guide the awareness to the underarms. And we'll feel the awareness as it slowly moves down through the sides of the body, all the way down to the waist. Just feeling that awareness moving, observing and releasing. And from the waist, we can bring awareness forward into the belly. Become aware of your belly. Become aware of the rising and falling of the belly with the breath. Or sometimes there's a feeling of expansion and contraction in the belly. So we observe this. Sometimes a feeling of contact between the belly and our clothing. And if there's any tension in the belly, we let that go. Allow the belly to be soft and relaxed. And now from the belly we can move the awareness. This time we'll move around to the back. We'll start at the upper back, at the base of the neck. From here we guide the awareness downward through the shoulder blades, through the upper third of the back, observing sensations and letting go. And we let the awareness flow downward a bit further through the middle third of the back, noticing all of the sensations without judgment, releasing the tension. And then moving down to the lower part of the back, the lower third. Same process, observing, letting go. Sometimes in the back we'll encounter sensations that are difficult or unpleasant. It's true for many people. There's feelings of fatigue, muscle soreness. Sometimes it can be difficult in those cases to objectively release the tension in the back because we're attaching to it ideas of disliking or that the pain is unwelcome or unwanted. So it can be very helpful to just embrace these sensations without judgment with your expansive awareness. Your awareness is really quite large. It's quite expansive. And so to observe these sensations of the back within this expansive awareness is to see them as a very minor part of the present moment experience. And by doing this, you can find a little bit of peacefulness around those sensations. Let the muscles relax. Just allow as much space as is needed for everything to be just the way it is. Everything is fine in the present moment. And then from the lower back, we will move our awareness downward. Feel it moving downward into the sit bones. You feel it traveling through to the hip bones, and then moving throughout the pelvis. Again, awareness of sensation and releasing of tension. And then we move down into the thighs. And we'll observe the different parts of the thighs. These are bigger muscle groups in the body, so we start by observing the top surface of the thighs, noticing sensation and letting go of tension, and then rotating outward to the outer surface of the thighs. Same thing, same process, observing, letting go. Try to stay attentive to the sensations and to the tension. Sometimes as we move through the practice, it's easy to start to drift. It's easy to lose focus. So try to stay attentive and aware. Moving awareness to the underside of the thighs now. Observing and releasing. And then to the inside surface of the thighs. Once again, observing, letting go. And then feel the flow of awareness moving through the knees. Very soothing flow through the knees, down into the calves. From the calves, down through the shins. Awareness working its way down towards the ankles. Feel it moving through the ankles. And then finally down into the feet. We observe the heels, we observe the soles, we observe the balls of the feet, we observe the tops, and then the toes, and once again we finally come to rest in the toenails, patiently observing, noticing any sensation in the toenails, however subtle. Just being patient, just observing. And now from the toenails, we will move our awareness again, this time back up to the top of the head and to the area of the scalp. But this time at your own pace, you can start to move your awareness back down through your body. So just begin at the scalp, and you find that with an in-breath and an out-breath, you can observe sensations on the in-breath in a part of the body, release tension on the out-breath in that part, and then move with the next breath cycle to another part of the body, and just follow that down. Try to follow about the same path that we did together so that no parts are forgotten or left out. Just working your way back down toward the feet. Noticing as you go the places where tension has returned. And this is very helpful to notice. There's places in the body where just a few minutes ago you let the tension go and now it's reappeared in some way. And this happens because of the habit energy of the mind. When we experience difficult sensations, difficult experiences throughout the day, maybe we get angry or we get afraid or we're frustrated. And when these emotions come up, we tend to tense the body in different areas as sort of a self-protective mechanism, a way of protecting ourselves from the difficulties of the outside world. And then later on we find that even though the situation has changed or has ended, that tension remains in the body. And in this way, the tension remaining in the body sort of replays the difficult emotions, brings those back, often at an unconscious level, but by becoming aware of this tension and releasing it with mindfulness, noticing it as a place of habitual tension, we can start to undo that habit of the mind. We can start to set ourselves free, ever more free, just observing and letting go. And once you've had a chance to move your awareness all the way through your body, let's bring our awareness together up to the base of the nose. Focus on the little patch of skin beneath the nostrils and above the upper lip. We just focus on that area for a moment. And then we can expand our awareness a little bit to include the rings of the nostrils. And then we expand a little bit further. We include the nasal passages as well. So now you can visualize this triangular area of the nose. And with all of your awareness focused here, just be aware of the movement of the breath in and out through the nose. So much so that you notice that this is an in-breath, and then you notice this is an out-breath, and you just follow the in-breath and follow the out-breath. Breathing in, I'm aware that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware that I'm breathing out. As you observe the in-breath, try to stay with it for its full duration. Try to stay with it until it slows and pauses, and then it reverses direction and becomes the next out-breath. And then you follow the out-breath in the same way as it slows and pauses and then becomes the next in-breath. We maintain this continuity of awareness of the breath. And as you observe the full in-breath and the full out-breath, you might begin to notice that sometimes the in-breath is a little longer, a little shorter. Sometimes there's more air passing through the left nostril or more air passing through the right nostril. So we're focusing, we're becoming aware of ever more subtle elements within the breath. As you're breathing in and out, open yourself up to the feeling of touch of the breath. Any of these areas in the triangular part of the nose, as the breath passes through or passes over, there is a feeling of touch. See if you can experience that touch of the breath. And upon experiencing that touch of the breath, you can open your awareness a bit further and notice the subtleties of that touch. There is, on the in-breath, sometimes the air feels a little drier. And on the out-breath, it feels a little more moist. On the in-breath, it might feel a little cooler. And on the out-breath, it might feel a little warmer. So we just remain aware, all of these sensations of the breath, along with the movement and the touch. For many of us, this is the time where distractions will start to arise, because we focus the awareness on quite a small area. So sounds in the room or from the street, they might distract you momentarily. But in the moment you become aware of the distraction, this is a very important moment because it allows you to bring your awareness back to your breath. So this is the practice. You notice a distraction without reacting in any way to the distraction. You just guide the awareness back and focus once again on the breath. Sometimes the sensations of the body will come up and be a distraction. You feel your foot falling asleep, or there's a little fatigue or pain in one of the muscles. This pulls awareness away momentarily, but we use this as an opportunity to guide our awareness back to the breath, to let go of the distraction. This helps us to focus the mind and to strengthen our ability to focus. And sometimes the mind itself can be its own distraction. You might be imagining something or remembering something, and this pulls the awareness away from the breath. But in the same way, we just guide it back to the triangular area of the nose. We let go of those distractions one by one, unconditionally, focusing the mind again and again on the breath, the triangular area of the nose. So let's practice this way for just a few minutes together in silence. Just let each of us focus on the breath and return as often as we need to, working with distractions that way. Let's just spend a few minutes together in silence, and then I'll ring the bell. Just take your time coming out of the meditation. Open your eyes whenever you're ready. Just bring awareness back to the room. And if you want to, you can stand and stretch or walk around a little bit. It's good to get your body moving again, especially the main joints, the knees. That was wonderful. If anybody's interested, there is tea in the kitchen. There's an air pot full of hot water and lots of tea, different kinds of tea in cups. So help yourself. We'll kind of transition into the talk for tonight. We have Hey Don, would you be willing? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So a little handout. So when you had attended the other class, we had a little handout each time, and so we do that each week. This is usually a little smaller based on what we're working with, but yeah, a little study guide, some notes. So it's helpful. And sometimes it helps to, when you go home and you're trying to remember, thank you, trying to remember what it was we talked about, it just helps to be able to look at this. Yeah.
Do you print all these?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a pretty decent office printer, kind of a small office printer upstairs, and that's where my office is, so I, just do all that and print these, and it's nice to be able to do that, because I'm able to, kind of print more if I need to, or that kind of thing. So.
I like the one that you have, says, may you be happy. I can't remember all of them, I'm trying to remember.
Sure.
May you be peaceful.
Yep.
And at ease, I can't remember them all.
Yeah, that's great.
So I look at it every now and then to try to remember.
Yeah,
That's wonderful. The 4 Brahma Viharas, that's called, and we do that at the end of every one of these Tuesday meditations. So yeah, it's kind of the way we close it out. So it's a neat thing to do. Well. Yeah, Don did it. I just have a few announcements as we're kind of transitioning, just so people know. Next Tuesday, which is the 26th, we are going to have meditation here for anybody who's interested in coming. So, which sometimes a lot of people need. You've got family coming in and they're staying with you, and meditation is a good thing. So it's an excuse to get out of the house and come here. So we'll be here next Tuesday at the normal time, and also on January 2nd, normal time. We'll be here for that Tuesday. And then beginning January 1st, we're going to have open meditation here in the morning, which just means the space will be open for self-directed meditation. So we'll have, cushions and chairs like this. This is just for people who want to come in here and sit on their own and just do their own meditation, maybe before going to work or starting your day. So that'll be from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m. Beginning January 1st. We'll have those open meditation hours. On Sunday it will be from 8 to 10. And you'll be able to find any of this that I'm talking about on the website if you look at the calendar. It's all up to date as of now. An additional thing that we're going to be doing is beginning the first Sunday of the new year, we're going to be doing this talk twice a week. So it will be Sunday, and we'll also be doing it Tuesday night. So I've had a lot of people who've said, sometimes I can't make it to Tuesday, so a Sunday would be great. So the Sunday, it will be a repeat. We'll do the first one on Sunday. It will be repeated on Tuesday. So just do it twice.
Is that at 8?
That will be Sunday from 10 to 11:30.
Okay.
10 to 11:30 on Sundays. And again, that should be on the calendar. A number of new classes are coming up in the new year. One of the things that I'm really happy to be presenting is, as some of you know, I've gone through the training of the different levels of Reiki, which is a healing energy, and I'm going to be offering Reiki teacher training. So for anyone who would like to learn the art of Reiki, we'll have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. And because I'm at the master teacher level, I can certify people in the lineage to do their own Reiki, so you can do your own healing practices. So that's going to be available. I'll have a couple more intro classes, which many of you have attended. That's that 4-part series. I'll also be doing that in addition to New Richmond. I'll be doing some of those in Hudson and some of those in Amory as well. Also a 4-part series, a couple of times it'll be offered on managing depression through mindfulness, meditation and mindfulness. A single class on mindfulness-based stress reduction, but again, that'll be offered a couple times. And then one that I'm really excited about, which is going to be called Mindful Kids. And this is something I've wanted to do for years, but this will be a class where we invite kids and an adult. So parent, guardian, whatever, just one child and one adult, or 2 adults, however it works out. But we will get together here and we will do some simple mindfulness practices with the kids and the parents together. And these are some that I've taught before to 3rd graders. So in that age range is probably what we'd be looking at, between 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds, so roughly the elementary school age. But offering these mindfulness practices to them as a way of utilizing breathing meditation to calm the mind and to calm the body. We do that we make a little craft item. It's a snow globe. And so the kids can shake the snow globe, and we use that to represent the way the mind feels when it's all full of all kinds of ideas, whether they're exciting or frightening or whatever it might be. It has been an amazing experience to watch the kids shake that snow globe up to represent the busy mind, put it down on the floor, and then we close our eyes together and we just do a breathing meditation for about 1 minute. And then that's plenty long for kids. And then they open their eyes and they're like amazed that, the snow globe has settled, and so is their mind. And so it's a wonderful teaching for kids. So we'll be doing this. And then there'll be a couple of other crafts along with that. One is or 2 of them are coloring crafts, where we do a fishpond meditation. The child imagines themselves as the water now, and they imagine their thoughts and feelings as fish swimming through the pond. And we talk about how the pond is their mind, clear and calm, and the thoughts and emotions are the fish swimming through. So they don't have to identify or be swept away by the emotions as they pass through. It's a way of teaching them to objectively observe the emotions without getting caught up in them. Very soothing, helps the kids, and then they color the fish. And then we do one more, which is letting go, which is we color balloons. We talk about how if you're angry at someone, maybe one of the other kids in your class or something, that it's possible to let go of those negative or difficult emotions. We can just release them and we can watch them as they go. So we have the kids color a bunch of balloons and name the different emotions or thoughts that they're having. So just 3 different little art projects, each tied to a simple meditation. The kids do it, the parent or the adult does it with them, and so just a wonderful thing. So I'm excited about that, and if you're interested, again, more information will be on the website. And a lot of these are being advertised in the Community Ed catalog as well. So yeah, so a lot of fun stuff. Really looking forward to the new year. And if anybody has any questions on that too, you can sure ask me, afterward. So tonight, I want to talk about, the topic is Taming the Wild Elephant. And that's the title of the handout, and the subtitle is Practicing Right Concentration. So we just got done doing a meditation. It was about 30 minutes long. And we were concentrating the mind on different things. We were concentrating on the sensations in the body, concentrating on letting go of tension. So we're creating this response of meeting tension with release. It just becomes an automatic thing that we do, as opposed to holding on to that tension and kind of perpetuating the difficult emotions that caused it. So there is concentration of the mind as we move through the body. And then we feel that concentration a little more profoundly when we focus just on the triangular area of the nose. Focusing there on this smaller area, the concentration increases. And so we're doing both of these practices together as a way of concentrating the mind. So my teacher used to talk about elephants. He was from Burma originally. His parents were from India, but he was born in Burma to Indian parents and eventually went back to India to teach, and then did quite a bit of teaching in the United States. But he used to talk about how, if you can imagine the power of a wild elephant, in Burma and India, it was common for people to train elephants to be like, kind of what you do with a bobcat or something like that here in the U.S. The machines, they would train elephants to lift logs and carry things and pull things. And I'm not really a fan of using animals to do that sort of a thing, but this was the reality of Burma and India at that time. So to imagine the incredible power of a wild elephant left to wander on its own, they can do a lot of damage, and sometimes they do. You'll read an article even in the news where there's an wild elephant has gotten angry and has run through a village and has just kind of trashed a bunch of stuff and done a lot of damage, and people are trying to stay out of the way. But when the elephant is trained, it can provide enormous benefit. But the power and strength of the elephant are nothing compared to the human mind. Our own mind, left to wander on its own, can do incredible damage. And the same mind, if trained, can provide limitless benefit. But training alone is not sufficient. It must be the right kind of training, and it must be aimed at the right kind of outcome, not income, but outcome. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit tonight. But to back up just a little bit, when your own mind wanders on its own, sometimes it's pretty harmless, right? You're just daydreaming about you'd like to be on vacation somewhere, or you're daydreaming about something enjoyable that you did. Sometimes it's that sort of a thing. Quite often, though, when the mind wanders, it is wandering into areas that are making us feel kind of uptight or worried. We tend to focus on things that are a little bit upsetting. We tend to focus on things people said that hurt us, and we tend to focus on things that maybe we're afraid of or worried about in the future. So it is the movement of our own mind that can cause us a lot of suffering. But it is possible to train the mind so that it doesn't wander into those areas that cause us pain and suffering. So again, that's what I want to talk about tonight a little bit. I have a little story. It's kind of a little bit of an aside, but this is supposedly historical. This one is about. This is back in the time of the historical Buddha, when he was actually going from village to village teaching. Now, the Buddha that's the title given to the man named Siddhartha Gautama. He was just a person. He started to teach these practices to other people, and then he was known after that teaching began as the Buddha, and Buddha simply means one who is awake, so it's a title. So this person, this man, the Buddha, had been teaching, and he had developed quite a following of monks that would show up or follow him around as he was moving through northern India teaching. And there was one individual named Devadatta, and this was, from all accounts, this was the Buddha's cousin. And the Buddha was getting old. He passed away when he was 80. And so there was kind of some discussion on who was going to take over, the Buddha business after the Buddha passed away. And so Devadatta thought that he was kind of the natural heir to that. And when he found out that that wasn't the case, that he wasn't going to be the one who was selected, And the reason he wasn't going to be selected is that, he studied hard and he worked hard, but he was very conceited. He still had a lot of ill will towards people. He would easily get upset at others, and so he really wasn't, he wasn't the ideal candidate for this type of work. And so Devadatta tried to kill the Buddha 3 different times. One time he was going to hire a couple of guys to do it, and they chickened out and didn't do it. Another time he tried to kill him personally by throwing a rock on him from a bluff up above, which came down and damaged the Buddha's foot pretty bad, but it didn't kill him. So then on his 3rd attempt to try to kill him, he used an elephant. So Devadatta found this fierce man-killer elephant named Nalagiri, and he got the elephant drunk, which is apparently a thing over there in India, that elephants will sometimes get into these casks where people have made wine or alcohol, and they'll get in there and it's like fruit to them, and so they'll drink the alcohol and then they'll get drunk, and they'll sometimes be mean drunks and they'll go around and they'll do some damage. So this elephant was kind of a mean-spirited creature, and was one that would probably classify as a mean drunk. So Devadatta got this elephant drunk, Nalagiri was the elephant, and started to agitate the elephant by hitting it with sticks, and so the elephant was getting more and more upset. And then when the Buddha came down this path, which he knew he'd be coming, he turned the elephant in that direction and kind of set him off, sort of like we might do with attack dogs or something today. So the elephant charged at him. And so I'll just read the story from here. This is one of the historical recordings of it. So Devadatta's 3rd attempt to kill the Buddha was to make the fierce man-killer elephant Nalagiri drunk with liquor. When Nalagiri saw the Buddha coming at a distance, it raised its ears, tail, and trunk and charged at him. As the elephant came close, the Buddha radiated his loving kindness, which is metta, toward the elephant. So vast and deep was the Buddha's love that the elephant reached the Buddha, it stopped, became quiet, and stood before him. The Buddha then stroked Nalagiri on the trunk and spoke softly. Respectfully, the elephant removed the dust at the Buddha's feet with his trunk and scattered the dust over his own head, which elephants sometimes do, and then it retreated with its head facing the Buddha as far as the stable, and remained fully tamed. Usually elephants are tamed with whips and weapons, but the Buddha tamed the elephant with the power of his loving kindness. So that was kind of the message there. So that ties back to, on page 1 here, beginning with a base of mental purity. And as we go through the material tonight, sometimes it can seem a little dense or complicated, but really it's easy to overthink it, and the message is actually quite a bit simpler. So when we started to meditate tonight, we just did that purification ritual in the beginning, where it's like, am I angry about anything? Am I feeling anger? If there is, I'm gonna set that anger down. Am I feeling jealous about anything, or any of those kind of emotions that can get between us and being fully peaceful and relaxed in meditation? That's what we're kind of looking for. So we begin with a base of mental purity. And the way it's normally stated in the teachings is abstain from harmful, unwholesome actions, perform only helpful, wholesome actions, and that will purify the mind. So this is purification not in a moralistic sense, so it's not like a sin thing, but it's a very literal sense, which is to draw out and eliminate any impurity, anything that is not the pure thing. So metallurgists, for example, if you were someone that worked with gold, you'd get these gold ingots, but as they were pulled out of the ground. But usually mixed in with them were impurities. There was dirt and stone and maybe other types of metal. And so the metallurgist or the goldsmith would go through a process of smelting where they would melt this all down, and then they were able to skim the impurities out of there and get rid of it so that they had this pure gold that they could work with. And so if you think about it, that's really what we're doing with the mind. The purest nature of the mind is perfect stillness. So it's not a mind that's filled with rage or agitation or anger or jealousy or greed. There's perfect stillness in the mind when we get to its purest state. It's the purity, you could say it's the purity of one thingness. So like when we meditate and we get to the point where we're really with the breath, maybe it only lasts for a couple of seconds, a couple in-breaths and a couple of out-breaths, but there's this purity to that. There's nothing else in there. So we're talking about this as the basis upon which we want to start our meditation. So we just kind of do a little mental house cleaning. We check in to see if there's anything we need to let go of or clean out. So a base of mental purity is important in the cultivation of what is called in Pali, sama samadhi, but it means right concentration. So again, we're learning to focus and concentrate the mind on one thing. Sensations of the body, the breath, distractions, letting go of distractions. We're really focusing more and more. And the longer we meditate, the more we're able to stay focused within the triangular area of the mind, of the nose, excuse me. But if concentration alone, it's not enough because, for example, a hunter hunting game is very concentrated on the game and on, aiming and shooting, but this isn't right concentration. It's not meditative concentration. Or like a pickpocket is very focused on the people around and, what they're carrying for purses or wallets, and there's a tremendous amount of concentration there, but it's not the right kind of concentration. So it's not the concentration that liberates us or sets us free from suffering. So the kind of mental purity that we're looking for leads us to a concentration that is pure. This mental purity, just like the gold. And at the bottom of page 1, one of the phrases that I share quite often is, this moment of consciousness sets the stage for the next moment of consciousness. And sometimes the normal human reaction is to say, well, geez, I've got a lot of stuff going on in my mind, and I don't know that I can let go of all of this stuff so that I can just focus single-pointedly on my breath or on letting go. But the helpful thing to remember here is that just the intention, if I can let go of one thing for one moment, this sets the stage for the next moment of consciousness. So it's a way of sort of de-escalating. We can kind of deflate or de-escalate all the worries or the anger or the difficult emotions in the mind. So it's really helpful. It's reassuring just to think of that. This moment of consciousness sets the stage for the next moment of consciousness. We've probably all had a moment of consciousness where we were getting more and more angry at someone or about something. And then that sets the stage for the next moment of consciousness, which is usually more anger, or we start to say things that are hurtful, or, maybe we, break something or something like that. So it's helpful to just think of this. Each moment of consciousness is setting the stage for the next. And so when we're able to bring mindful attention to this and choose, well, for this moment then, I'm just going to de-escalate. For this moment, I'm going to try and let go of one thing. And in the freedom created by letting go of the one thing, in this moment, in the next moment, it's going to be easier for you to let go of the next thing. So it's kind of the opposite of getting more and more and more angry until you do damage, right? So it's It's de-escalating, 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 setting the stage for ultimately a very peaceful degree of consciousness. So now, it is said that there are 5 hindrances to our concentration. So I want to talk about those a little bit. And we might go into next week with this stuff too. We probably will, because I just want to cover these enough so that they become very understandable. Because this is not a dense teaching. It's really pretty simple. So if you're going to sit down to meditate, any of you who have tried to meditate by yourself, usually the first thing that comes up is the first hindrance, which is sense desire. And so for me, I'll be sitting, I'll finally get comfortable, and I'll be trying to, begin my meditation, and then I'll think, boy, a cup of coffee really sounds good, It's just a simple thing. It's not a big deal, but it's just kind of, so now I'm thinking about a cup of coffee. So sense desires, they tend to get in the way of the start of meditation. Or I'm sitting here and thinking, oh, I'm getting hungry, what am I going to have for lunch today? And so, again, just a little sense desire. Or you're meditating and you think, boy, I really would like to take a nap right now. I'm pretty drowsy. So it's just these simple things that come up. It's nothing major. It's usually something really mundane. But we notice that, we're usually in this mode of, what do I want? What do I want now? What do I want next? Cup of coffee, a snack, a nap, I want to be warmer, I want to be cooler, whatever it is. Just these simple sense desires. So we become aware of them. They're also called greed or craving, but we become aware of these, and these are hindrances to meditation. Now there's ways to offset them, generally by just sort of cultivating a spirit of compassion. That is pretty helpful in offsetting greed. And so is generosity, just cultivating a spirit of generosity. So, the people that you encounter or you're working with or living with, cultivating compassion towards them tends to calm the sense desire and the greed and the craving. And so does generosity to others. It's not just generosity like financially, but it's generosity with your time, where, to me, that's in a lot of ways the most precious thing we have. It's more precious than money, because time is the one thing that is irreplaceable. And so when you're with someone and you give them your full undivided attention, that to me is a great generosity that we can share. So it's kind of neat to think of it in that way. So then the second hindrance is ill will or anger or aversion. So like I was saying before, is there anything I'm angry about? And sometimes it's just so subtle, but that's part of being a human being, right? You think to yourself and you're ticked off about something somebody says, or you're kind of hurt by being slighted, or, you're mad about that your car broke down, or any of these kinds of things. But the feelings of ill will towards other people, or the feelings of anger or aversion, again, those are kind of a roadblock as you're trying to get into a meditative state. So we can be aware of these, and that's really the benefit of knowing these 5 hindrances. Once you know they're there, and you kind of take the mystery out of them, you realize, oh, this is just a simple part of being a human being, just like everybody else. But yeah, these things really do kind of get in the way of meditation. So ill will and anger and aversion is that second one. And that's offset by goodwill. It's offset by loving kindness. It's offset by virtue. So there's a lot of ways to offset that. The third one, and I always say this is my favorite, physical sloth and mental torpor. So this is being lethargic. Meditation would seem like the easiest thing in the world to do, because all you have to do is sit down and close your eyes and breathe. But actually, if you've tried it, there's a lot more to it. And so it's kind of like, I feel too lazy to go sit down with my eyes closed, If you think about that, it's kind of that's a weird thing to say, but that is there all the time. So that physical sloth, the mental torpor, lethargy, especially this time of year. I was talking to Judy before we started tonight about kind of this instinctive feeling of you get home in the winter, it's dark and it's cold, and it's like, I don't want to go back outside tonight. I'm staying here until tomorrow. And that's that's so common. So physical sloth and mental torpor. Sloth. Love it. And that's offset by strong determination, which is something we really start to develop and cultivate as we do work with our meditation, because we start to have some success with it, even if it's for a moment or two here or there. We start to realize, oh yeah, this really does pay off. It really is worthwhile. And so this strong determination will come up. The Pali word for that is aditana, and I've always liked that word, but it means strong determination. The fourth hindrance is worry or restlessness. And that one comes up so often. You're sitting there, you're trying to meditate, you're trying to calm yourself. Maybe you've overcome the desire for a sandwich and a cup of coffee, and you've overcome your anger at your friend for saying what they said, and you've got enough energy now so you're not feeling slothful or lethargic, but there is a feeling of worry or restlessness. You're kind of worried about, boy, what's going to happen with the health of my loved one, or what's going to happen with my financial situation, or I'm a little bit worried about this person and some trouble that they're having. So this worry can come in. It also comes as a form of restlessness, makes it hard to sit, makes it feel like I think I need to get up and do something. So this, again, something to be aware of. We can offset it with mindfulness. When we're aware that worry and restlessness are present in us, or any of the preceding three hindrances, mindfulness of that alone is often sufficient to start to let it go a little bit. So that's the fourth one. And then the fifth one is really common, especially in the beginning of a meditation practice for somebody who hasn't been doing it for years and years, but there can just be this feeling of doubt. You sit down and you start to meditate, and then it'll occur to you, what am I doing this for? I don't even know that this works. I sit here and I do this. Is this a waste of time? So there's kind of this doubt and this lack of conviction. The best way to offset that is by being aware of it and continuing to practice. And then if you do, you'll start to have these personal experiences where, yeah, I really do feel more rested and whole, and I feel better and happier. It starts to replace this doubt and this lack of conviction. And oftentimes it's just with the simplest things. Sometimes for me, I'll have the experience of, and this was really true early on in my practice, is that something would happen that I would normally get really upset about, and it happened, and then after the fact I realized that I was just really calm and composed during the whole thing. That I didn't take the bait. I didn't get angry or upset about it. And it'll be after the fact, and I'll realize, wow, that's pretty cool. Where did that come from? That's not the normal way that I'm wired. I'm normally the guy who gets upset about that stuff. So, we'll have these sometimes very subtle or very simple experiences, and we'll reflect on them later after the fact, and we'll say, wow, that was really, there's something to this. I handled that quite well. So that's the fifth hindrance. A couple of Buddha quotes here, which I think are cool and pertinent. The first one is greed. So the first hindrance is sense, desire, greed, or craving. Greed is because of possession. When there's no possession of any sort or kind whatever by anyone or anything, then there being no possession whatever, would there, owing to this cessation of possession, be any appearance of greed? And the answer is no. It's kind of interesting, but acquisition fuels greed. So for example, you get that cup of coffee, and it's like, okay, I had my cup of coffee, and now you're thinking, I really want some cookies, with the coffee. So it's like as soon as you give in to one, then the next one kind of shows up, and then the next one kind of shows up. And this happens with all sorts of, want and desire. It usually starts kind of a chain of, now that I got this, I want the next thing. And now that I got this, I want the next thing. Psychologists, behavioral scientists refer to this as the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation. So it's like a real thing that science today recognizes. And so they say there is this tendency in us that as soon as we get one thing, that we're no longer satisfied with it, we need the next thing. So this is something science is observing, which is really neat. So they got to it about 2,500 years after this was written. The next quote here is one about projecting appreciative joy. And this is a way, appreciative joy, an example would be, we usually kind of look at, we have a circle of joy. So like if something good happens to me or to my partner or to my kids or to my immediate circle, whatever that circle is, good friends, whatever it is. If something good happens to one of these people, I experience, that's joy. I get joy from that. But let's say my next door neighbor gets a brand new car and parks it in the driveway and it's really beautiful. Maybe I don't get much joy from that. Maybe I get a little bit of my car is 10 years old and it's getting rusty now, and that car looks really good. So it's one of these things where we become aware of what's going on with the mind. So here, a person, and let me say, expanding that circle of appreciative joy, to kind of close out on that, is a practice of starting to look at the experiences of joy that other people are having and then taking that on as your own joy. And so some of the things I mentioned are just really simple. There's an older couple that walks by just about every day. They go for a walk just about every day at about 12:30. So I'm usually down here having lunch and I see them walk by. And so, here's this couple. They're together. They do it every day. And so, it's like I see that and I smile. I get joy from that. That's not my tight circle, but I can expand my awareness and I can take that in, as my joy. Or I'll see a couple kids walking down the street and they're just kind of shouting and yelling and laughing, and it's like, oh, I remember when I was a kid and I see them and I don't know them, but, I just sit here and it's like, oh, that's wonderful, appreciative joy. And so I often use the extreme of, you will get to the point where your next door neighbor could win the lottery, $24 million or something. You'll be just as happy for them as if you had won it yourself. You'll get to that point where appreciative joy is that pure. It might take a while.
It take me a long time.
Yeah, but it is possible and it does happen. So in this quote, he says here, a person dwells pervading one direction with her heart filled with appreciative joy. So it's kind of a practice, just looking out and saying, boy, I appreciate my neighbors, my community, the people around me. It is cultivating this sense of appreciative joy. And then likewise the second direction, and likewise the third direction, and the fourth direction. And then also above and around and below. She dwells pervading the entire world everywhere and equally, with her heart filled with appreciative joy, abundant, grown great, measureless, free from ill will, and free from distress. So this is one of the practices that we can do, is to intentionally cultivate this quality of appreciative joy, just looking around us wherever we are. I tend to do it very naturally with things that are in nature, the squirrels that come to eat the food that I put outside, the birds that I see, just the simplest little things, that's beautiful. Today I had the neatest experience. This maple tree out in front here has not dropped its leaves yet. they're still green. They seem to be just sort of suspended there. And I was upstairs in the office, and I had my computer up, and there was a breeze out there, and I was looking in the computer screen, and I saw the reflection of that maple tree out there, and the leaves rustling in the wind, and it was just like the middle of July, from the computer. I was just looking at that reflection, so it was like, wow, So I just really appreciated the fact that at first I was kind of a little crabby at that tree because I wanted it to drop its leaves so I could rake it all up and get it out of here before the city stopped picking it up, but it wouldn't drop it. And so now it was like today I got this little reward. I got this little flashback of July. So it was just kind of a neat thing. But it's easy to cultivate that appreciative joy if you start looking for just the simple little things. Okay, so we get into, all of this is leading into how we can meditate more effectively. How we can develop this great experience of meditative concentration. So there are what are called 4 stages of meditation, or 4 jhanas. And I'm at the bottom of page 2 now. So the Pali word jhana, Jhana, it means meditative concentration. So a person who meditates regularly for sustained periods of, say, 20 to 30 minutes or more will progress along 4 levels of meditative concentration. So it's just kind of this continuum that you go along as you meditate. And many of you experience it here as we go through it, but you'll often experience it in the privacy of your own meditation when you don't have someone guiding you through verbally. Because as we do this, you tend to be real focused on the instruction. So some of this you'll start to experience as you're observing your own experience in silence. So there's these 4 levels. These aren't to be looked at as like you need to graduate from one level to the next. But this is more saying if you meditate, you will just progress through these stages if you're willing to do one thing, which is to release your grasp on the very pleasurable aspects of these. I remember when I was in my first formal long-term monastic retreat, and sitting in there, it was like 3 days of pure torture. My body was not prepared, my back was killing me, my knees hurt. I was just physically in so much discomfort, and I didn't like the routine. We were getting up at 4 a.m. and we would meditate until 10 p.m. And it was just a really austere experience. And so for the first few days, I was just hating it. And I'm just being honest. So for the first few days, I was just miserable and hating it. And then I was in meditation one afternoon, and suddenly I just started to feel the most blissful, just wonderful sensations in my body, this feeling of peacefulness, this feeling of transcendence. It was as if all of my concerns about my physical body had just evaporated, and I felt great. And so I thought, this is what all the talk is about. This is what everything that I've read is saying I'm moving towards. And so this is it. I got it. I've done it. I have it. I meditated for the rest of that period, and it ended. And so the next time I went in there, and I was looking for that. And I sat down and I started looking for it. And because I was looking for it, and because I was grasping, once again, the 5 hindrances had kind of taken hold. That's the paradox about this. It's like you finally get to the thing you want to feel in meditation, and then these 5 hindrances kind of come back in a sort of insidious way. So it's like, oh, I'm greedy for that feeling now. I want that. I want to get that back, and I want to hold on to it. So the key here is that we'll start to move through these 4 levels of meditative concentration. And really, each one is more pleasant and enjoyable than the last. But in order to progress from one to the next, we have to be willing to just let go of all of it as it flows through our consciousness, as it flows through our experience, right? Because as soon as we hold on to it, there's like a coagulation or a stagnation. We stop the flow, you know? And so it doesn't move any longer. So we have to be aware that these pleasant states of consciousness are coming up, and we have to be willing to release each one of them. So it's kind of a leap of faith in a way. We release each one knowing that it's going to lead to the next one and to the next one, and each one has additionally wonderful feelings to it. So back to the text, the key to progressing along the 4 levels is a willingness to let go of the increasingly pleasurable states of mind and body. Each level gives way to the next, and our mental habit is to cling to anything we like, hoping to prolong it. And so the practice of sama samadhi, which means right concentration or right meditation, is counterintuitive, and it requires some confidence. And that kind of ties back to the 5th of the 5 hindrances, which is doubt, lack of conviction, right? The best way to offset that doubt and lack of conviction is to have a real lived experience in your own meditation, in your own life. So now we get into the first jhana, and then we start to move through them. Unfortunately, it is almost 8:30, so this went by really fast. We will pick this up next week. Hopefully, you can all make it. And get here and forget about Christmas and just come and hang out here and chill out. You can even bring random relatives if they're staying with you. Use it as an excuse to bring them here, and then you can take pleasure in knowing that they're being forced to sit still for a half hour in meditation, if you want to do that. But seriously, you're welcome to bring anybody you want. It'd be fun.
If we can't make it, is that gonna be on tape so
It
we can
will
listen
be.
to it?
It will be, yep. If you can't make it, it will be. If you go to the website, there's a tab called Dhamma Talks, and the most recent Dhamma Talk is always on the top. So, and usually I have these uploaded by about the middle of the next day. So tomorrow around noon should be up.
So
Yeah.
if we miss it, we can.
Yeah.
And how far back do they go?
I think I've got about 50 of them on there right now. So they go back quite a ways. I would say, well, they certainly go back as far as the first class that I did here in this building. So that's got to be close to a year now. Isn't it? Isn't it? Maybe not.
No, it was,
No.
wasn't it summer we're making?
Yeah. Maybe it was more like May when we started here. But anyway, there's about 50
It
talks.
was light outside.
Yeah, it was, and it's not. So there are about 50 talks there. So yeah, it's always available on the website for you to listen to free anytime you want to, and so I encourage you to do that. The first part is always the meditation that we did together, so you can just sit down and do that, and then you can listen to the talk again, and you can take notes on the handouts if you want to, or just experience it. I've heard from a couple of people that they are inviting their significant other to sit with them and do the meditation along with them, and some people have had some real good experiences with that, so that's a neat thing too. So now, before we leave for tonight, we will do our practice of the 4 Brahma-viharas. And Brahma-vihara just means highest state of consciousness. So if you think about what are the most beautiful things about being a human being and having human consciousness, well, there are things like compassion and loving kindness and joy, appreciative joy, and also equanimity, which is this thing that sounds a little different. It's like, does that fit in with the first 3? Because it seems a little different. But equanimity is peacefulness. Equanimity is a sense of complete okayness with whatever is happening in the present moment. So just imagine that. Imagine being in a moment of your life where you weren't looking for ways to make it better, or you weren't thinking to yourself, if only this were happening, then I would really be happy, or if only this person was acting this way, then I'd be really happy. But equanimity is something we cultivate, which is just, this is what is, this is my experience, and I'm just right here, and I'm fine. So that's a beautiful one too. So let's go through these 4 together. You can close your eyes and I'll just say them. And you can let me speak for you to the extent that you're comfortable with that. So the first one is aware of the suffering that so many beings experience, and really all beings experience suffering for a variety of reasons. And so we cultivate now the sincere desire that all beings may be free from suffering, and may all beings be free from the causes of suffering. And from that compassion, we move to loving kindness. May all beings be surrounded by love and surrounded by kindness. All beings. And may all beings be joyful. May all beings be appreciative of the joy that they witness in others. May all beings be truly joyful. And may all beings be equanimous. So this is that different state. This is, may all beings be satisfied with what they have and where they are, without feeling that they need to crave or cling to other states, but just a sense of perfect contentment and balance with what is here in the present moment. And may all of you sharing this space with me tonight, this space and time, I'm so grateful for your presence. May all of you be truly, truly happy. And I'll go out by ringing the big bell. Still learning how to play that after all this time. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to you.
Happy New Year. Hope to see you next Tuesday. And yeah, check out the calendar on the website for some of these new classes and offerings. It's going to be some fun stuff. I'm really excited to be able to share it. And finally, to a point where we can actually use the space for its intended purpose pretty much all day, every day.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we're really getting to that. I'll still be remodeling upstairs, but yeah, we're finally to that point. So.
Do you want these left on the floor, or do you want?
Yeah, you can leave them. I'll just in fact, if you want to leave them, that's fine, because I'll probably have some open meditation time tomorrow too, so people can just use the same setups.
All right. Well, thank you.
So that will work.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Linda. Bye, Norma. Thank you. Judy, good seeing you again.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing you both. Everybody.
Go ahead.